Allora, buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to this meeting with John Elkann, whom I'd like to thank wholeheartedly for joining us today.
John Elkann è arrivato.
John Elkann got to the meeting yesterday. He visited the meeting and he had a meeting with a number of volunteers coming from university who talked about anything, economy, life, his education. And so we decided to invite also William Marcella to ask questions to John Elkann as emerged yesterday during his meeting with the volunteers. John Elkann was born in New York. He had a scientific baccalaureate in Paris. He got a degree in engineering in Turin, and at 35, he became the head of one of the largest industrial groups worldwide. I'd like to give him the floor straight away for him to tell him about his the impression he got coming at the meeting yesterday.
Grazie Bernhard, grazie a tutti voi.
Thank you very much. Thank you to you all for this opportunity. In Turin, I had the opportunity to get to know the Piazza dei Mestieri and Banco Alimentare, the Jobs Bank and Food Bank last year. Sergio Marchionne had come here and he felt the great enthusiasm that I feel myself. I saw that yesterday with my own eyes. I had the opportunity to get to know about the different initiatives that were launched at the meeting, as for example, the exhibition on the subsidiarity for the 150th anniversary of Italy. I've learned about the saints that we had in Turin at the beginning of the 20th century and the 19th century. I learned about John Bosco. I learned that there are more than 90 blessed and saints coming from Turin, and it was very, very interesting to get to know what you're doing here. I felt a very strong enthusiasm. I felt so many young people with excitement, and I felt very small children. There are a number of areas that are equipped to do sports, and no doubt among the different opportunities here offered at this meeting, having also playing area and the sports area is most important. I had the opportunity to talk with a number of students yesterday coming from the whole of the country and studying different subjects. I met people from Milano, Bologna, Aquila, Pescara, students who were attending the Faculty of Economics and Humanities, and that was very interesting for me to learn what they think, and I'm very glad that William is here with us today so that he can perhaps raise the number of questions that they raised yesterday about what is happening in the world today and about very personal issues, as for example about the personal choice to be made, how they should behave in the working environment. Do you work just to make money, or are there any additional motivation when you choose your job? What is the balance to be arrived at between work and personal life? So again, I'd like to thank you most warmly for this very appreciated opportunity. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Allora, William, la prima domanda.
So, William, start with your questions. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank again President Elkann for his great willingness in meeting us young students. This enabled us to get to know a number of things that I'd like now to go over with my questions. So my first question is the following. You've been chosen to represent your family at the head of a group such as the Fiat. How do you experience this shift? Did you experience that as a top-down decision or as an opportunity? And how do you live today together with this great responsibility that you have in your hands? It was never an imposition. Within my family, what is important is to make sure that each may choose his own life. So I was never forced. My grandpa, my grandfather and the rest of the family never forced me to do anything. I've always wanted to work. I was interested in working since I was a kid. I wanted to work, and it wasn't so important that that was part of my family business. And it was just my life circumstances that made it so that when I had to decide where to work, having spent the first 18 years of my life all over the world, I was born in America, then I went to England, and then I went to Brazil, and I finished up my education in France. So at that time, when I had to pick a university, I also had to decide not only what to study, but where to do so. And I decided to do that in Italy, to get to know the country, because I knew that my grandparents came from Italy, but I knew very little about the country. So I decided to do engineering in Italy, and so I got to know the working environment of my grandfather and the family. That has been a very gradual shift. I learned to know what that world included, and obviously my interest grew. A number of different circumstances afterwards connected to both my family and the family. I was trying not to speak too loud because I didn't want my voice to echo. So it happened. I was the person that was more closely involved in the family business. I never considered that as a burden. As a matter of fact, I've always considered that as a huge opportunity, because that was what I wanted to do, and life was indeed providing me the opportunity that I'd been looking for anyway. At the beginning, there were times when I didn't have enough experience, and when I had to make choices, I've always had people around to me, and I was very much persuaded in the way forward. And I've always believed that I was very lucky, and I was given the opportunity to learn, do many different things. Are there clear initiatives or the most important things that happened in your education and training in? I've been used to living in different countries, in different environments, and that has been a great opportunity, because that in a way taught me to get adjusted to different situations. Whenever you shift from one school to another, when you shift from one country to another, from one set of culture, from one culture to another. And I experienced a divorce within my family, new marriages, so as to get to know different people from different cultures. And so this, again, forced me to try and adjust myself, understand other people, other situations, and get adjusted so as to establish a relationship with my neighbors. And that has been certainly essential in my training and education. Within my family, I had learned that there were people that were very strongly committed in the work they were doing and in the community in which they were living. I've attended also public schools. I attended public state school in France and in Italy. The university I attended was indeed a state university. And in state university, you're given a high degree of freedom. It could be a good and an evil. In my case, it was good, because this liberty enabled me to organize my time as I thought I should do. And this empowered me a lot in making my decision, because attending such schools basically you have to shoulder it upon yourself to decide for your education. As for my working experience, well, what was most important for me are internships that I did in the factory. The first time I did an internship in a factory in England, producing lamps for the car industry. At that time, it was the first time for me. I was working in a factory, and you understand that what is important are personal interactions, personal relationships. If the way you interact with other people and you can really contribute to what everybody else is doing, then you really feel a team, and you really feel that there is actual interaction and successful interaction. As a young man, you know, you tend to believe that you know it all, but when you realize that, as a matter of fact, you know nothing, and that you can learn a lot from the people that you meet at work, and you can become useful for somebody else, well, then paves the way to many different directions. My first real job was at General Electric, where I was a part of a very interesting team that included 250 young people that were doing auditing work. They were doing auditing worldwide for the General Electric for a 4-month time span. Well, at that time, I learned a lot about different cultures, because I was working with people from Japan, from other Europeans, with South Americans, and I lived together with them, because we would live together, so we had to share it all, accommodations and everything. We were very young, but we were given a very important responsibility, so we had to be at a level with their demanding jobs, and we had to try and learn a lot, because we were expected to learn a lot from the environment we were working at. The most important working experience after I got back to Italy is what I have experienced with Sergio Marchionne. Together with him, I learned that starting from a very uncertain situation, and this is something that I experienced myself. When we started at the time, Fiat looked like it couldn't survive, both because of internal circumstances and external circumstances. Nobody actually trusted Fiat would survive, and together with Sergio, I was given a very great opportunity. I learned from him how to look at the future, and that could be very different from what you could expect. Maybe, you know, people around you may feel that there is no way to trust, but then if you work together, you can overcome that difficult time. And another important take-home message that something that I've learned is that even storms get over. So everything is get over. What is important in a storm is to go through it, because then the storm finally gets over and you're out of it. When you started answering my question, you talked about getting adjusted. So my question is the following. I'm a student, I'm a young man, but over the past few years, I've seen a number of changes, very rapid changes in the society and in the world, with emerging countries, with the financial crisis. So my question is as follows. You are the head of the Fiat Corporation. How do you experience such major changes in your extremely privileged position or post? Well, I do experience change very positively. So perhaps I should try and live also without change, because I've been living with changes all my life. I believe that change is very much part and parcel of life. And what is important, what has always been important for me, is to connect change to progress. So you can try and improve whenever you go through changes. When in the way you do things, you always have to question yourself and progress. I've learned that do things and doing mistakes and correcting them is much better than doing nothing, just to be sure you never get it wrong. So we're living at a time where our life basically is very much defined by uncertainties, whereas the title of the meeting refers to certainties. What are the certainties that you rely on when you have to take the very many different decisions that you have to make on an everyday basis?
Diciamo che la prima certezza è l'incertezza.
The first certainty is uncertainty. You have to look at your job, being able to adjust to the different circumstances. And what we've seen over the past few months is that many things are totally unforeseeable. We've seen what has been happening in Libya and the reactions that the financial markets had on the problems connected with the high indebtment of a number of Western countries. So this is an important starting point. Personally speaking, there's one thing that I appreciate a lot, and that has been given the possibility to learn, to be curious in understanding things. And this is a certainty. If you look at the parable of talents, the parable of talents teaches us that the person that is rewarded is the one that with his talents uses them. This is a certainty. And even being given the possibility to talk with people that are more experienced than we are is, again, another important way forward, and this is a certainty. If you ask, and if you really want to understand, if you have problems, and if you're really willing to heed the answers that are given to you, well, there are many people that are willing to contribute to you with wise answers. And this is another important certainty that has shaped my life. There are then a number of parameters on which we base our lives. Personally speaking, I'm certain about what is doing something well and doing something evil, and behaving in one way and in the other. So I have certainty about what is good and what is evil, and that is a certainty that you have to try to rest on when you to guide your behavior. Your personal balance is achieved by you succeeding in reacting adequately to the different tests we are put during our lives. So an element of certainty comes from a study at the Bocconi University on family businesses. In this study, we read that between 2008 and 2009, family businesses in Italy grew by 58%, whereas other businesses grew by 48%. This study says that the return on investment is positive for 1.3% for family businesses and minus 2.3% for other businesses. As you run an important family business, how can you explain this better performance of family businesses as opposed to businesses as such? Over the past decade, family businesses or one family controlled businesses have been more greatly appreciated by the stock exchange. We've seen a lot of financial unrest over the past decade, and one of the main features of a family business is that it is more cautious and conservative in resorting to loans and in the financial management. So caution has been certainly rewarding greatly, as opposed to companies that have been more ruthless in their financial policies. We should also say that the financial management and the ownership stability within an organization gives the possibility to the people working in it, gives an opportunity to make decisions over a much longer term. So vision can actually be fully exploited, and you develop a much greater trust than in other non-family businesses. Then there are also constraints to this type of organizations. In the case of nepotism, for example, or one of the essential criteria within the company should always be the merit. People in key positions obviously have to be the best, the one that really deserve to be given such a high-ranking post. Well, in that case, it could be a problem to have a family business, because merit may not be the only guiding criterion, but when merit is being considered and when cautious policies are adopted, then the combination of the two gets also positive rewards by the financial markets and the stock exchange. We've talked about family, so I'd like to add one more question immediately. Well, that doesn't have to do with family businesses, but also family businesses. You work hard, and people need to work hard, and a lot of time has to be devoted to your job. How can you combine your personal life? You have a family, you have two young kids. How can you combine your profession and your family? Well, certainly the family is completely different from your working environment. The dynamics are totally different. If you look at what is important within the family is being equal among the members of the family and solidarity, whereas if you look at the company, there has to be more of a meritocratic and hierarchical structures. So you see that the two worlds have to communicate one with the other, being different. What you normally see is that a business runs well when the family runs well, so the two things do not thrive to the detriment of the other. So usually business is not thriving unless the family is thriving as well. The two things are closely interrelated and interconnected. The two worlds have to run together head by head. I have a wife, I have two young kids, and one of the most important things that I try and do is to try and spend as much time as I can with them, to do things with them, while at the same time I try and also have them understand what I do. My son is about to turn 5, and we were on the holidays, and he was asking me, why don't you stay with me? Why do you have to go to work? And these are the questions that you start being addressed when you are a father of a young son. And when I answer him, is that what I do is something that I like. I want to do that. I need to do that because this is something which is important for me. And I believe that this is the way I can convey to him what I do in my life, and I try to explain that to both of them. I'm not just saying, you know, I work because because then we can afford to go on holiday. And I hope I can maintain a balanced life within my family and have my family understand what my working environment, what my work is, and the world I live in. You often talked about empowerment, responsibility at the beginning also of our conversation, so I'd like to ask you a bit of a provocative question. To what extent do you feel responsible vis-à-vis our country, Italy? I am Italian, as many of you, and I feel the responsibility in the choices I make. When we cast our vote, for example, we have an important responsibility, because when we cast a vote, we decide who's going to represent us. And so we have the duty to make sure that what we were promised is actually complied with, and this is part of our civil responsibility. Then I feel responsible for issues that are important to each of us. I believe, for example, that education is very important. There is the Compagnia Foundation, whose objective is to contribute at best to the enhancement of the education system in our country. On every year, we write a book, which is the yearly report on education, including a number of analyses on school, thus contributing to the debate on how to improve our school system. For elementary school, in particular, are very good in Italy. The school system is good in Italy. We tried and see how to guide more students to a scientific career, because in Italy there's a gap in the number of people that are willing to study scientific issues. There are initiatives that are there to try and encourage students to take up scientific careers, and indeed we have also a number of scholarships available for students, deserving students. I am sure that the better people are trained, the better our school systems are, the more we reward the people who study, the better we're going to tackle the future and develop a better future for us all. I believe that, given your high post, you have a number of people working with you. What are the key elements in teamwork when it comes to communication and motivation?
Io ho la fortuna di lavorare con persone di cui mi...
I am very lucky in that I work with people that I trust, and I believe the trust is quite important at work. Being given the chance to freely express oneself is, I believe, a great asset, and mutual trust is again another great asset. This trust is based on common conviction, on common objectives, on a very lively dialogue. Together with Sergio Marcella, for example, we talk on a daily basis, even though maybe not directly and even more than once a day. So I believe that communication with the people you work with is key. But what's most important in working relationship is trust. Obviously, when you work, also you have to pursue objectives, and there's this important aspect of a positive competition, because you always try and do things better and do more things. And I believe that this culture is very positive, very and that I feel very lucky in that the working environment I'm in is exactly like this. Last night you said that you're very often traveling the world over and getting to know different countries, highly industrialized countries and developing countries. Having gained such an experience, what do you think that Italy requires to remain a competitive country at a global level? No doubt, when you travel around the world, you can very easily understand that Italy is a country that is greatly loved. There's a strong desire for Italy worldwide. Many people desire to go to Italy, to come to Italy, to buy Italian products, to get to know about the country. So I believe that the point actually, or the issue, is what Italy wants for itself, what Italian people want for their country. If you look at this facility, for example, you may very well understand that there's a great capability in organizing great events in our country. If you look at specific districts and manufacturing industry, because, for example, you can never suffer from the competition from China or Brazil, as the case of Parmesan cheese, because Parmesan cheese has to be made in Italy. So there are certainly important potentials. So again, the issue is what the country wants for itself, or what Italian people want for themselves. If you look at a country such as Brazil, where we held a board meeting recently, I've been there twice over a short time, and well, Brazil is a country that strongly expressed what it wanted. For example, it decided how to grow, how to enhance and improve. There's a nice initiative, by the way, here, which is an initiative organized by yourselves together with Fiat in Brazil. There's favelas next to our factory and our plants, and there are two ladies that use scrap material from the industry, and they make bags, and the bags are here on sale. And there's a very strong enthusiasm. For example, I lived in Brazil myself when I was between 7 and 12, and we left Brazil because Brazil is a very, very risky and dangerous country. I never realized that, but it was a very risky country, especially for children. Well, there's a very high level of crime. Now crime has declined, but people in Brazil, despite they earn more being criminals, they opted for leaving crime behind. They are happier with a normal job, despite the fact that they earn less money. And they made a decision consistently with the rest of the society, because they want their country to grow. And they decided also in which industry they want to grow. So they decided where to invest, where to focus. Fiat, for example, has established a dialogue in Italy. We are still willing to make cars, but then we have to work and talk. And even with Sergio Marconi, we are talking every day also to decide whether Italy and to see whether Italy is really willing to make cars, because again, the key for the future of Italy is what the country wants for itself and what the Italian people want for themselves. I'd like to grasp this opportunity to ask a question, a very personal question myself, stating the following. In view or in light of your experience, what kind of recommendation would you make to young people with a degree trying to find a job, but also in light of the difficulties that our economy? So, for example, I'm going to start looking for a job as from next year. What kind of recommendations would you give? Well, this is a subject that we widely covered yesterday. I believe that what is most important is to be frank and look at the reality. There are wonderful fairy tales by Andersen that I recently read, and the emperor, for example, in one of those fairy tales wants to find the most elegant dress, and there are two people cheating on him, saying that he looks very beautiful even without anything, that his dress is made beautifully despite him not seeing it, and everybody says that he's dressed beautifully despite him going around naked, and the child looks at him and says, "You're naked, you're not dressed up." So basically you have to look frankly in front of the reality. One of the girls yesterday said that her dream would be to be an entrepreneur, but then she didn't know what her future enterprise could do. So I believe that you have to decide exactly what you want to do and then try and make your dream come true. But you have to have a dream, and then obviously it is important to learn foreign languages, to develop different experiences, working experiences abroad. I still consider myself as a young man, and I've been going through the same thing myself, and what is most important is to be guided by life offering you opportunities, and you have to somehow analyze this opportunity, but being frank and being honest, and looking at the reality is, I believe, a key element. Yesterday, during your conversation with the students, you said that storms are to be coped with. You cannot just basically run away when you are faced with difficulties in your life. This positive energy, this positive attitude, where do you find it when you say that, when you feel this certainty that you always have to go through things and never escape? I've been through many different storms. So it is very reassuring to know that storms get over. Obviously, as long as you do not experience a storm, as long as you don't see that it does get over, you never know. But then I understand that young people feel a strong energy, and are very lively and willing to do things, and this is a positive element, because there are indeed possibilities and opportunities to do important things, and we have to be certain about that. I was lucky enough to gain a lot of experience as a young man. As a very young man, I learned a lot. I had important masters. I experienced a very important experiences. I went through difficult situations. I have no regrets. I went through difficult times and I learned a lot. I believe it is up to ourselves to decide to pick and choose among different opportunities that are offered to us. Thank you. Yesterday, there was a very clear statement that was made, that you made, and you said that the future is what we are going to build. Each of us should build the future, and I believe that this is part of your convictions by John Elkann. I'd like to thank him again most wholeheartedly. And I'd like to close the meeting, but not closing it, but rather opening it for. You are at the head of one of the most important manufacturing group in Italy. And I believe that having a person that is so frank, so bright, I think that having such a man at the head of one of the most important industry is certainly a sign of hope for our country. Thank you very much. Thank you.